we're going to have a short lesson, and then we're going to split guys and girls, okay? But before we do that, let's do a quick review. Fill in the blank. God is always
at work.
God is always at work. God pursues
a love relationship.
A love relationship with who?
Us.
God speaks. Not Isn't there one before that?
Wait, yeah.
I'm pretty sure
God loves.
There's one before
There's one before that. It starts with I.
Invites.
Invites us to be part of His work. And to do that, He has to speak. So they kind of go synonymously together. Okay, then I always forget. What goes next? God speaks. No, the crisis. Crisis of belief is next. We have to decide what are we going to do with our doubt. And then we have to make adjustments. That's where we are tonight. Thank you. So tonight, we're talking, last week, that was cool. Last week, we talked about adjustments as well. This week, we're talking about more adjustments. So, adjustments of our thoughts. All right, and I want us to go to Romans 12, 1 and 2. So if you have your Bibles, go there with me. And I think I took Terrell's. Is that okay with you, Terrell? Where's Terrell?
If I was him, I honestly believe it. He's a little bit.
Oh, Terrell, can I have your Bible? I think that's a yes. So go to Romans 12 with me. You guys need to bring your Bibles. I like hearing your voice. All right, here's what it says. And here are the questions that I want you to answer after we're done. All right, Romans 12, 1 and 2. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you. Give your bodies to God because of all He has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind that's acceptable. That is truly a way of worship. Don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn and know God's perfect will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect. All right. You got the first question?
Yeah.
What is worship, Drew?
It's like where you give like your life basically to Him.
Yes, and that's exactly what the verse says. It says, present your bodies to God. So give your life to Him as a sacrifice. It's worship. All right, the second question. What should we not act like? Linda? The world. We cannot act like the world because they do not know God. They don't follow God. All right, then the last question is, how are we changed? Lindsay? By the renewing of our minds. Very good. In this version, it says by changing the way you think. So that is a big thing that we're going to be talking about tonight, our thoughts. All right, here's what we're going to do now. We're going to stop and think. And in order to help us do this, I need 2 senior hires who like logic. If you like logic, you're my person. You want to help Taylor? Can Taylor do it? Hey, Taylor.
Taylor hates being boxed in. Hate being boxed in, don't you?
All right, here is what they get to have. Taylor and Linda each have 6 words. Now, this is a psychological order of thought, okay? Now, it's okay if you have different answers because there are different schools of thought on exactly how this goes. And so it's probably going to be a little different because different psychologists believe that it's different. So what I'd like for you to do is pick 6 people and line them up in order of the way you think these 6 words should go. And just,
What?
I mean,
What do you mean?
logically, how should those words go? In what order?
People?
And 6 people have them hold up the signs. Oh, you just...
Okay, it doesn't signify.
Yeah, nothing. It doesn't signify anything.
Taylor, set them out.
And then you can pause it if you want.
Right now?
Well, until they are ready.
This is tough.
I'm going to do this. Linda's going to go first, and she's going to tell us why she put them in this order. Now remember...
Are you trying to say something?
Remember, there are 2 different ways that counselors generally, that psychologists generally say this works. We're going to see why Linda picked the order that she did.
Jerry, can you put your hand on Jerry? I really don't know why. I just want to do that.
Okay, go ahead.
I think that you feel and then you think about what you're feeling, and then you come to some sort of conclusion that you believe in. And then circumstance comes up, so then you combine your belief with the circumstance, you take action, and then there's consequence.
That's excellent. Well done.
Whoa.
Now, it isn't the way that a psychologist in any of the books I've read put it together, but I can totally, there's logic there, so I don't think they would disagree. Okay, Wyatt, what did you put?
Okay, we've got first circumstance. Your circumstance is what's around you, what's happening around you, what you're seeing. As a lot of people say, that people are child of their circumstance. People that are raised in a certain way act a certain way. And then responding to your circumstance, you respond emotionally. What do you feel when you see whatever? And then once you see what's around you and you feel in response to what's around you, then your emotions are checked by your beliefs. What do you believe? What have you been taught? What do you know to be true? And that affects your thought. Once you know what you believe and you know what you feel in response to your circumstances around you, you think about, okay, so this is happening, I feel this way about it, my beliefs say this, now what do I do? And that's when you create your plan of action, which leads to the action in your plan of action, which leads to the consequence of what happens once you do what you thought you would do based on your beliefs and what you were feeling about what is happening around you.
Okay.
Can Taylor teach a lesson?
Oh, okay. Quiet. All right, obviously, I want you to notice a couple things. Put your signs out this way. In every one, obviously, the action is going to lead to the consequence. There are consequences for our actions. Sometimes the consequences are good, sometimes they're not. Now, Taylor, your group can probably sit down, but I want to show you how some of the counselors put it in order, all right? This doesn't mean that these were wrong. It just means that there's a different way to look at it. So here's what I want you to look at.
Just put them there. I don't like my actions.
I want the group now to get in this order.
I'm second. Get out of the way.
Get in this order.
I'm first. Move. Oh, we got one. We're so rude.
I am not.
Move out of my way.
All right. Now let me explain to you why they put it in this order.
Gary, hold up your time.
Here's the circumstance. I'm hungry. Thought would be next. Food would be good right now. The next thing is belief. Food makes me not hungry. I believe this to be true. An emotion, boy, I'm glad that I can go get food. So I'm going to go get food. I'm not hungry anymore. Okay, we're going to do another one. Jenny isn't coming to my party. Jenny just called in the circumstance and says, hey, I'm not coming to your party anymore. You have a thought, oh, well, maybe she's busy. Or you have another thought, maybe she doesn't like me anymore. Let's go with that one. Maybe no one likes me. I bet no one likes me. I believe no one likes me, so I'm sad. So I'm going to go cry, and now my eyes are going to be red. Okay, one more. I'm home alone. The computer is unlocked. Circumstance.
So gross.
Wow, I'd really like to look at something right now. It would make me feel better. That's the belief. It would make me feel better. Emotion. I'm feeling a lot of emotion. So I do this. And there are consequences. They might be consequences down the road, but there's consequences. So Taylor's order was very logical, and Linda's order was logical. This one's also logical, which is why people can't really agree. But what I want you to see is that your thoughts will influence your actions and therefore influence your consequences. Most everything has to start with a thought, because as the two already pointed out, your beliefs and your emotions are tied to your thoughts. Okay, circumstances just come. Thoughts come. It's what you do with them. Thank you. You guys can sit down.
Emotions come.
So what I want you to learn from this example is that you're going to have thoughts, you're going to have beliefs and circumstances and emotions. So you could even put them in this order. You could even put them in this order. All it is to say is that, hey, Terrell, find a seat, buddy. All of these things are going to start with your thoughts somehow. Okay? But before you get to your actions and consequences, you have to stop and think. Because as that verse says, we're changed by, your version says, the renewing of your mind. And this version that I read says, by changing the way that you think. All right, we're going to look at one more verse before we split up guys and girls. And that is 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 5. So let's look at that together. All right, 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 5. Would anyone like to read it? Does anybody have it? Gabby, can I read it? Give me your Bible. 10, 3 through 5. Okay, read it really loudly so you don't have to read it once.
Okay. We are human, but we don't wage war as humans do. We use God's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down the strongholds of human reasoning and to destroy false arguments. We destroy every proud obstacle that keeps people from knowing God. We capture their rebellious thoughts and teach them to obey Christ.
Thank you. Now that was a little bit long. I want to see how well you were listening. What are the two options of the weapons that we can use? There's two. You one or two, Cole?
Worldly and godly.
Worldly and godly weapons. And the godly weapons have divine power to demolish strongholds. All right, divine.
I didn't know.
Oh, you did?
I didn't know it until now.
Okay. And then divine power, because we're not fighting against each other. We're fighting against spiritual forces, as Ephesians 6 says, which you can look at later. All right, so how do we deal with our thoughts? It says that you have to capture them. Or in another version, take captive. Capture them. So a thought comes into your head. Any thoughts pop into our head. Now, what I want you to understand is your thoughts are not sin. It's what you do with your thought that is a sin. If you continue to think on something and meditate on it, it can become a sin. A random thought that pops into your head, you have to take it. You have to take it out, look at it, and say, what is this thought? Is this a thought that is from God or a thought that isn't? And the way you can know that is you look at that Philippians list. True, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy. Those are the things that you look at. If the thought is those things, you can put it right back in and keep thinking of it. If it isn't those things, what we're going to talk about next when we split up into guys and girls is what do you do with it if you find out it's not from God. We all have thoughts that aren't from God. What do we do then? And then, to who do we make them obedient? To Christ. We make them obedient to Christ. You choose what you think about. Okay? You don't choose what flies in there. You choose what you continue to think about. Therefore, as we looked at our words earlier, affecting your actions and your consequences. All right, I think that's all I have. So what does the Bible say are our boundaries? That's the true, lovely, right, pure. And then James 1, I did want to read this to you, very last thing. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. Your thoughts are under attack because the enemy knows that what comes in here will eventually come out in your actions if you're not careful. So, blessed is the man who is steadfast under trial. When he stood the test, he'll receive a crown of life. Now that's a very good crown that God promised to those who love him. All right, but listen to this. Let no one say when he's tempted that God is tempting him, because God cannot tempt or be tempted by evil. But when each person is tempted and lured in by sin, by his own desire, and listen to this, the desire when it's conceived, so the thought is there and it's conceived and it becomes a thought and therefore then a belief, it gives birth to sin, and when sin is fully grown, it brings forth death, the consequence. All right, so we girls have a lot of thoughts that come into our minds.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of thoughts that come into your mind. They're completely different thoughts. Completely different.
Wow.
We have different things that come into our minds. And so girls, we're going to stay out here and we're going to talk about thoughts. And the guys, actually let's do it the opposite. Girls, we'll go back to, oh, you're just out here?
She just said all things for not hearing me.
Oh, okay. So girls will stay out here and we're going to talk about our thoughts. Guys, why don't you go back into that room that Nathaniel and Brandon's group meets, and I think that would be big enough for you and you
Go
can
to youth
talk.
room.
And I don't think that'll be big enough for us.
There's a lot of boys.
Go back to that room